Okay, guys, so we'll start now. So, welcome to today's HRLocker webinar on setting up work patterns. My name is Christelle Wren, and I'm the Product and Marketing Manager here at HRLocker. So today what we will be going through is a number of updates that we've made to the system, specifically around the new time on settings, so that's the working patterns. We'll also go through the new annual leave settings. So annual leave, you can now have a few different options. So you can now have an hourly holiday allocation rather than just a day allocation. And you can also have an accrued setting. So for any of those people who may be working on an 8% or 10% rule of all hours worked, you can now set somebody to be an, rather than an allocated holiday type, you can set them as an accrued type. So I'll go through specifically how to set each of these stages up, and at the end of the webinar, if you have any questions, I'll go through them then. But if you think of any questions during the webinar, please feel free to put them into the chat box, and I have David there moderating for me, so what he'll do is he'll send me the questions at the end, so and I'll answer all your questions then at the end. And then if anybody needs any kind of further queries in regards to how to set up your work pattern specifically for your company, we can set up a time after this webinar to kind of go through that a bit more for yourselves. So what I'm going to start with here first is setting actually up the work patterns. The work patterns can be found here in your settings and in the company section over here. Okay, so just to note that everybody in your company will now have a work pattern. So that has replaced the previous time on setting where you would have just selected the days that people worked rather than being able to give them different hours per day. So I'm just going to show the work patterns here. So you'll set up your company work patterns. And you actually, if you look at your system now, you'll probably have updated. It'll probably be updated right now, and you'll be able to go into the setting and see the different company work patterns that are here. So by default, you can set a default work pattern here. So for most companies, your default will probably be kind of 9 to 5:30, Monday to Friday. And you can set that that will be the default working pattern for most people who join your company. But then if you're operating different shift systems, or if you have people who are on a part-time basis, you can set specific work patterns for those specific people or those specific shift patterns. I'm just going to show you how to do that now. So you go into your, again, you go into settings, company, and then add work patterns. We're going to add a work pattern here. The first thing you need to do is name the work pattern. Now, when you're naming the work pattern, it's important that you name it something that makes sense to your company. And what I mean by that, if you call shifts certain things in your company, so if you call them day shifts, night shifts, shift 1 or shift 2, whatever actually makes sense to you as a company, that's how you name your shift pattern. So I'm going to currently name this shift pattern, name it shift, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So MWF, okay? And that makes sense to me here. But again, whatever makes sense to yourself. I'm going to select the days that I want this shift to be applicable for. So I'm going to select Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm going to select that the start date here is start time is 9 o'clock, end time 5 with an hour break. On a Wednesday, this shift, they start at 10 o'clock and they end at 3, and they might just get a 30-minute break. On a Friday, they'll start at 9 o'clock, finish at 1:30, and they don't get a break on that day. Okay, so when I'm just going to put a test here just to show that this is the one I set up. Okay, so when you finish the shift pattern, you're happy with that, you're going to press submit, and you'll see here it's populated here. So this shift now becomes available to your managers in the different offices when they're setting people up. So what's important to remember is that your work patterns first need to be set at a company level. So once you set all the different work patterns at company level, you'll then go into the offices and decide, okay, well, is my office default different from my company default? And which work patterns do I want available per office? I'm just going to show you how to do that now. So we're going to go into the offices here. We'll stick in head office. So we'll go to head office and time on. Okay, so you'll see here this is my time on setting. So what was previously here was that Monday to Sunday days where you could pick which days that were working, but you couldn't do different hours per day. So that's the main change again. You can do your different hours per day. So your active work pattern for this office is the Liz McMahon work pattern. And that is going to be the default one every single time I create an employee. I'll just click to view it here. By default, everybody in this office will get the 9 to 5 1 hour break. But perhaps in this office, I could have a couple of part-timers or a couple of shift workers. And when managers are setting people up, I would like to give them access to be able to assign these work patterns, these pre-approved work patterns to employees. And the way I do that is I can see all the available work patterns. I'm going to select View and Import here. And I'll see all the different work patterns that are currently available at my office level, but I want to add that new one in here. So I'm going to press Add. Select that shift. That's the one that we did there. Remember it said test there, okay? And we're going to submit. And now you'll see, now that is an available work pattern to my manager. So it's a pre-approved work pattern that I'm allowing people to actually select when they're setting up an employee. So what's really important to remember is that you set your work pattern up at company level and then you set it up per office. So now when I'm going in to actually set up my employees, I'm going to go into a directory. Okay. And we're going to go into Cage over here. Okay. We're going to go into our settings. Okay. And you remember previously what I think? So previously there was that Monday to Sunday tick boxes here. This has changed here where we can set the working days and hours. So I'm going to go to see what working days Kate is on, and she's on the head office work pattern. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add her a new shift pattern. So maybe her work shift has changed. Okay. So I'm going to put her onto this one over here and submit. Now you'll see that previously she was on this head office work pattern and now she's moved to this Monday, Wednesday, Friday work pattern. And I want to perhaps I made a mistake and I want to do it from the Monday. You can select the Monday and change the date there of when it was actually applicable from. So for those of you guys who have different shift patterns, maybe some people are working days one week and nights the next, you can have multiple rows here of 1 week days, 1 week nights, 1 week days, 1 week nights, and you can just make sure that the dates here are correct. And then for those people, perhaps if you have somebody, 90% of the people in your company may be on that full-time Monday to Friday 9 to half setting, but you could have just a few people who are, have that part-time work pattern, and we will just set that work pattern here for them. So the work pattern will reflect in the Who's Off calendar. So it'll make sure that the Who's Off calendar will show that the working days are actually correct. So in regards to those people who have been using HRLocker up to now, you will see some changes in HRLocker. And the changes that you will see is when you actually log into HRLocker, every one of your employees in the system now have a work pattern. So we would have ran a bit of a system update where we would have seen the default the working days that were ticked previously, and now we've created a work pattern for them. So again, if anybody has any questions about those work patterns, please come and talk to me afterwards, and absolutely drop a message in the chat box section there, and David will send on the messages to me at the end of the webinar. So the other thing that we've updated is that previously up till now, you were only able to give somebody, for example, a daily holiday amount. So you would have given them 20 days holidays or whatever was applicable. So this person here has 20 days holidays. So now with the updated work patterns, if you give somebody an hourly allocation, now you're able that basically if somebody has working 2 hours on a Monday, 5 hours on a Friday, 3 hours on a Saturday, when they apply for leave, the exact hourly amount is going to come out of their holiday allocation. I'm going to show you how to set this up. So in the settings at the moment, so right now for you guys who are currently using HRLocker, this setting is off for all of you. And if you want to turn it on, you're going to go into settings, you're going to scroll the whole way to the bottom of the page, and there's this allow annual leave accrual option. So at the moment for all of you guys, it's off. So you just need to tick it at company level, and then now that option to create that hourly annual leave option as well as the accrual option becomes available to you. So now at company level, it's available. Then we go into the specific offices, and you'll decide per office who you want to allow to your managers to create as hourly employees. Maybe this could be all your offices, or maybe this could just be one or two. So again, we're going to go into that head office over here. I'm going to go into time off, and we're going to scroll the whole way down, and there's that allow annual leave accrual option. So you're going to tick that button, and now anybody who's being added into this office, you're able to give them an hourly leave option, or a daily option, or an accrual option. So now we're going to go into setting an employee up, and I'll show you how you can set up that hourly option. So you're going to go into the directory here, add employee, okay. And test. Okay. So regular employee, their start date will leave is the 1st of January, and then this is where the difference is. You have a drop-down menu here of an option of holidays are allocated or holidays are accrued. So we're going to leave them as holidays are allocated for the moment. And you see here it says leave type is your leave type in hours or days. For this employee, we're going to change it to hours. And you see now that it's changed to hours. And I'm going to give this person, let's say 150 hours this year. Okay, I'm going to leave them in the head office because that's where we make the changes. The other thing just to note, just a side note, is for those of you who haven't seen this already, we have made an update here as well, but there's also a Teams option. So now people are able to go into an office, a department, and you're able to select a number of teams that somebody might be a member of as well. Okay, so we're going to enable the timesheets for this guy as well. Okay, so now if I look here at John Burke, he has 150 hours. So you'll see there he's 150 hours, okay? And now we're also going to go here into his settings, into his working days. And you'll see he has that default Liz McMahon work pattern. So I want to put him onto that test one here. Okay, so now when I go into John Burke here in time off, so that's me here, logged in as Liz. I'm going to select John here from the screen. And you'll see here he's 150 hours. Okay, and now the couple of different options that he has here is that the type of leave. So now when he's selecting leave, he can have a different, he has a different drop-down menu here of custom duration. And when he puts a custom duration in, he's able to maybe just go off from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Or he's able to put in specific times that will take a couple of hours out of his annual leave allocation. And then as well as that, when we looked at his work pattern previously, where is he here? There he is, okay. So you see his days are variable. When he selects a Monday off, the 8 hours are going to come out on a Monday. When he selects a Wednesday off, we said that was, I think it was in 4 or 5 hours. So that's what's going to come out of his annual leave allocation, and the same for Friday. So however many hours are actually set for each day, that's how many hours are going to come out per when he does his annual leave request. And he can also just maybe request 2 hours off or something like that as well. So that's the thing, that's one of the big differences, is that we're now able to have that allocated hourly option. The next difference is, and we're going to go back into here, and we're going to add another employee in, okay? And this time, this employee, we're going to set them up as an accrued option, okay? So the important thing here is when you're doing an accrued option is that it has to be linked to the person's timesheet. So what that basically means is when a person submits their timesheet, however many hours that they work, it's going to be multiplied by a certain percentage. Okay, so this person here is a regular employee, is doing the start date for the 1st of January, and this is where the difference is going to happen. This person is now on accrued, and you see now it's changed to a percentage amount. So this guy, I'm going to put as 8%. So most of the time, it'll probably be 8%, but whatever is in the person's contract, that's what you put in here in the accrual stage. There's also a maximum yearly entitlement, so make sure that you're staying within the legislation here in terms of what the maximum accrual is. And this guy, I'm going to put in the head office as well, okay? So you'll see here now, he has that 8% annual leave option, okay? So until Jenny submits a timesheet, she's going to have 0 holidays. And that's the important thing to remember, is that until she actually submits a timesheet, she will not have any holidays. So every time Jenny submits a timesheet, it's going to multiply by that 8% and accrue holidays for her. Okay? Let's check her here. So apologies. So you'll see here, she has 0 holidays. And when she submits a timesheet, you're going to start having, you see there's the annual leave accrual log here. So every single time she submits a timesheet, there's going to be a new entry in here each time, and they'll say how many hours she accrued per timesheet. Now, also the important thing to remember is that anybody who's on accrual, you can't accrue in days, it is an hourly option. So they'll be accruing hours and not days, which is important, okay? So for those of you who may be using the system for a while and you may have 1 or 2 people that you may want to change from an hourly option into a daily option, from a daily option into an hourly option, there is that option for you. So when you go into the directory here, and I'm going to choose Kelly here. And she's in days. She is, okay. So you'll see here, there is these 2 options here now that she can change. So the leave type in hours or days. So what's important here is when I choose hours, this pop-up box is going to come up here and it's going to ask you the question, we may need to convert carryover or manual adjustment from days to hours. How many hours are in one annual leave day for the employee? Why is this important? It is important because up until now, this employee, Kelly, has been having holidays in days. So her carryover may be in days. So for example, she may have 5 days carryover and you may have given her some manual adjustments as well. So for example, you may have given her 3 days manual adjustments. So when we're converting somebody from those days to hours, we need to know how much is a day worth. So how many hours are we going to turn those days into? So say for example here, if Kelly has 5 days carryover, and we're going to put in her hourly option. What is a day? We're going to say her days are 8 hours. It's going to change her carryover into 40 hours. So that's really important that before you're turning somebody over from that daily to hourly option, that you are putting in the correct figure here. Okay, so we're going to put 8 hours here. And you'll see now she's changed into hours. And you'll need to decide basically how many hours she gets for the year. The other important thing to remember is that in any given year, in any given annual leave year, so whether your leave year runs from the 1st of January or the 1st of August or whatever it is in your company, during that leave year, an employee can only be hours or days. They can't be a combination of both. So when you change somebody from days to hours, it's going to backdate it to the 1st of January or whatever your leave year start date is, and it's going to change the previous leave entitlements into hours. Why does it do this? It does this so that you're able to pull down a report in a yearly function that basically is able to give you an overview of how many holiday entitlements this employee had. Because if you were having days and hours, it would be difficult to put a report together. So we do it all in the one language. You're able to put it down in hours or days, whichever way you've turned the employee into, so that you're able to report in a cohesive way. So this section has changed quite a bit in terms of the different options that you have, but it still has the same theory in mind, in that every time that you create a new annual leave entitlement, you get a new row here. You can change this person from being accrued to allocated if you want, or vice versa, from hours to days. And if you have a number of people that you'd like to do that to, please either ask the questions in the chat box at the moment with David, or come and ask me afterwards, and we can set up a call to go through specifically how to do that for each person, how it would work best for you guys. So that's the important thing to remember there, is when you're changing somebody from the days to the hours, it's going to ask you that question about how many hours are in a day for this person. And you need to decide how many hours I'm going to give this person, and so that we can change that into their days into hours for them. So, and obviously, guys, the reports are all the same as usual. You know, we've updated, there's been a couple of updates to the reports. You'll see a couple of extra lines, especially here in the annual leave summary report. So previously you would have just had an allocated option. Now you'll see when somebody has an hourly option, it'll tell you if it's an hourly, and there's a few different rows there saying what the accrued option is for somebody, as well as the allocated option is. So they're the main updates, guys, and I really hope that that's what we've been looking for. We've been working with a lot of you to make sure that the hourly option is what you've actually been looking for, and that it works with your company. So I have a couple of questions here that David has sent me on, so I'll just go through them now and hopefully be able to answer a lot of them. Okay. So can this allow for variable weekly rotas with, say, a set pattern over 4 weeks where each week may be different? Yes, it can. Now you will have to go in and set, so you have to set each week. So we'll go, sorry, let me explain better than that. So when you're going into the actual work pattern here, you have to create each week as a work pattern. Then you'll set the 4-week rota in place. So you'll have maybe week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 set up here. And then you'll allocate each one of those weeks to the individual, or if it's multiple individuals. And maybe, for example, somebody may be starting on week 1 and the other person may be starting on week 2, and you can alternate those with them. So yes, it can. And if you need some further clarity or how we can go through that, please, we can book a call after this and we can talk about it. Actually, a nice way to show you here is if I go into Liz over here, settings, and work pattern here. Okay, so you see here she's got 2 rows. So you would have 4 rows here. You have week 1, week 2, and the 3rd row here of week 3, and a 4th row there of week 4. And you would say what dates they're actually going to start, what dates they're applicable by. So whatever the Monday or whatever day you're starting them on. Okay. So can we make a shift pattern that spreads over a 4-week rolling rota rather than on a 7-day basis? So at the moment it is a 7-day basis. Now you can create a monthly work pattern, but it is a weekly basis. And again, if we can have a look at that a bit more, and we can see. Okay, so we have a very complex shift pattern. We have to create shifts to cover 24 hours, 365 days a year. So yeah, so at this stage is actually that's a very good point. If I go into the settings over here, just as a note to people, okay, when you're creating a work pattern, and for example, somebody might start at, let's say, 8 o'clock at night, and they may finish at 5 o'clock the next day morning. So you're not going to put 5 o'clock here on the Tuesday. You're going to put 5 o'clock here on the end day over here. Okay, so basically what this means is that they've started at 8 o'clock on the Monday and they are going to finish at 5 o'clock on that Tuesday morning, okay? So if you're doing nightly shift patterns, this is how you do it here. So, I mean, what I would say, there's somebody here who's saying that they have a complex, very complex shift pattern over 365 days a year. If you have that shift pattern done, we can work with you to upload it into the system to make sure that everybody's work patterns are assigned. But you can absolutely do that for a year in advance, that everybody can have their work patterns allocated. Okay, so does the custom option for annual leave only work if he's allocated leave on an hourly basis and not days? So yes, so that custom option is there if you're on an hourly basis. Okay. So can toil now also be taken in half days, full days, and now also hours? So yes, it can. And I'm hoping that I must have just skimmed through that by accident. So let me show you here. So where your toil options are here in the time off settings, there is now a new button here that says book toil leave by the hour. So again, for those of you guys, because we don't want to upset the way that your current settings are, that option is now available to you if you are using time off in lieu. But it is by default turned off. So if you do need to turn it on, please go into your offices, time off settings, and click that button on. And then when somebody selects the toil option for annual leave, that custom duration will appear for them and they'll be able to take out an hour. So how do you change an existing employee's work pattern? So what you'll have to do with that existing person's work pattern is you'll have to go into the settings here and create. So you can't change it. You need to create a new one. Okay. So you'll create their new one. And then perhaps maybe if it's this one here that you don't want anymore, so that could be the old one that you don't want anymore, you'll archive it. So you just get rid of it. And you will create the new one. And then you'll go into the individual here in the directory and allocate that new one to them. Okay. So the next question here. The option for annual leave calculations and leave holidays and hours does not show in my existing employees. No, it won't, because right now it's turned off for everybody. So you will have to go into the settings here, scroll the whole way down here, and to allow annual leave accrual option. So you need to turn that button on at the company level for the option to be available. Then you'll need to go into offices and then decide which offices you want it set up for. So to set it up for, like say for the head office, you're going to go into time on across from head office. Scroll the, sorry, I've got lost there myself. You don't go into time on, you go into time off. Scroll the whole way down and turn on the allow annual leave accrual option. So you need to turn that on at the company level, and then you need to turn on the office level, and then that option there will be available for you. Is there a facility to keep track of what days people are working from the office and working from home during the week? So yes, there is. So at this stage, what the individual has to do is when you're in offices, okay, you go into time off, you'll create a leave option that is called working from home. Do you have one here? No. Okay, so you have working from home. Okay, and you'll see here that it is an out of office leave type. So if you select out of office here, what will happen is that it will be automatically be approved and it'll come up as yellow on the actual calendar. So if you create that there, okay, and if I go into time off, I don't think this is in that office, is she? Oh, let's choose somebody who's in that office. So the working from home, that wasn't right. So when she selects working from home, so she'll basically put in the days that she's working from home. And this can actually be done in advance as well. So if you guys are in terms of having to schedule who's in and who's out of the office, to make sure that you've got that social distancing, you can make sure that, if it's every second person that's in or whoever is actually in, so maybe you want to schedule 1 week on or 1 week off, whatever it is in the office, they need to put in the days that they're working from home. And then when the who's off calendar, you'll see who's actually in yellow. So you'll see basically who's actually, see this like yellow option here, you'll see actually who's scheduled to be out of the office and who's in. And then absolutely from a reporting perspective and a traceability perspective, you will be able to see who is actually in the office. Just on that note, I was talking to a client of ours, and what they're doing in regards to the traceability aspect of it is tracking and tracing. I suppose that's what the word you're using at the moment is now. So with the timesheets, every single day that somebody submits their timesheets, in the notes section here, they put in who they've been in contact with in the office. So you'll have that then if you ever need to have the unfortunate chance to be able to report actually who was in the office if you had a COVID case. Okay. Is it possible for an employee to have two types of leave, one that can be taken in days and leave taken in hours? For an employee to have two types of leave? No, so they're either in hourly or days. Now there is that toil option that is there for hours. So if you actually want to drop me a message afterwards, and we can set up a time to talk, and we can see maybe how we can work something out for you. Okay. Can we set part-time people as days, not hours, and accrued? No. So it's only an option that they accrue in hours. Okay. So they they will be accruing in hours, not days. What about when the person is on parental leave and part-time hours? Which is the best way to set this person up? So, I mean, I suppose it would depend on, to be honest with you, on what arrangement you have for parental leave. So if they're taking off that full day, or if they're just taking off that a couple of hours here and there. So what I would say that is, if the person is off, for example, every single Friday, you should set parental leave up as a time off option here. So a type of leave. So you'll have parental leave set up here. And then you would maybe put in every single, now if it is every single Friday, if you come in and talk to us, and we can upload that for you to make it that it's every single Friday. And then at least that person will be kind of rostered off for that section. So I would say it's just important that you're actually noting what days the person is on parental leave. So David, is there any other questions there for me? I think that's the last one. So, so guys, as at the end of this, as always, we'll send you on a recording of the webinar. I'll also send you on in the email. There'll be a meeting request button, so that if anybody would like to book a time to go through any of these options with myself or Sinead. Sinead's our account manager here, if anybody hasn't met her yet, and we can schedule in a couple of minutes to go through with people, specifically if there's any kind of people that you might have questions about, or they might be a bit awkward, and we can help you through that process. And as always, guys, we'd love your feedback. If there's anything that you think we could improve, or if there's anything that you'd like covered in these webinars as well, we'd always love to do that as well. So we do understand that there has been a number of changes. So just make sure that you're familiarizing yourself with the work patterns, and then that once you've identified those people in the organization who would like to change their annual leave options, that you have that correct hourly amount, and that you've decided, okay, well, who's going to be on the accrued option, who's going to be on the hourly option, and how do we set that up? Okay, and make sure that you've communicated that correctly as well to your employees as well. So again, thank you very much, guys. I hope this was really helpful to you. Jenny will send out all that information to you, as well with the button to book a call with me as well. And please feel free to book a call, and thank you very much for listening.